we are going to talk about rhetorical situation. I know as professionals, we should know how to deal with different types of people. And also, we should learn how to express our thoughts, our ideas in the manner that is intended for the purpose. So we should learn about the purpose of communication. And for us to be able to do that, let's learn what rhetorical situation is and how we would use our gift in rhetoric, our knowledge in speeches to express ourselves freely and at the same time effectively when we communicate with people. For tonight's session, we have two objectives. One is to compare and contrast the different modes of delivering a speech. And second is to deliver effectively a message to an audience. So tonight we're going to learn how to choose the type of speech or the kind of speech that we will deliver in a particular context and how we would be able to deliver it effectively. So our output for tonight would be a self-written speech, which you will be delivered, of course, by recording yourself on a video. So that would be our pre-final performance task. So this time I will be posting it earlier on the Google Classroom so that you can work on it early on. And also you can accomplish your performance task earlier and preparation for the pre-finals. Now, before we start, I'd like to share with you here a picture. And what you're going to do is to follow through my questions. I will be asking questions and please do not go beyond what is being asked. Okay, please stick to the question. I'm showing you a picture. And this time I want you to write in the chat box anything that you can see in the picture. Anything that you can observe in the picture. So no more inference yet. Just tell me what you can see. Okay, so okay. So according to Sam, the man is nervous, generous, stressed. Sable, that person is overwhelmed. What else? Okay, nervous, overwhelmed, stress. What else? What you can see. You are making inferences already. I just wanted you to describe the picture here. So what can you see in the picture? Please give me a literal description. So according to V and Grace, practicing. Practicing what? Okay, Laika, there's a microphone. Okay, correct. From Audrey, a man is in corporate attire. Very good. Stage fright, you are already inferencing. You are inferring already. Okay, so I'll take two answers here. One, there's a microphone. Another one, a man in a corporate attire. What else? Please do not answer the question in a manner that is not being asked. So, okay, just give me a literal description. Can you give me a literal description? So we have here a man in corporate attire. There's a microphone. He's sweating. Perhaps he's sweating. That's correct. Sam, a man wiping his sweat. Okay, you're maybe correct. We would not do this unless our sweat is actually profuse. It's coming out profusely. Okay, so we have four possible answers here. One, there's a microphone in front of the guy. A man is in corporate attire. He's wiping his sweat and he's sweating. Okay. Now let's proceed to the second question. This time it's an inference, which means that you are going to read between the lines. Tell me, what do you think is the man doing in the picture? What is the man doing in the picture? So it's about time that you will make an inference. So you will, okay, according to Sam, nervously preparing for a speech. Okay, correct. According to Kyla, giving a speech. Okay, all right. V and Grace, he's going to do a speech. Correct. Okay. So based on his actuations or actions, do you think he's prepared for the speech? And tell me why. Do you think he's prepared for the speech and why? Again, is he prepared for the speech and why? Tell me if he is prepared and why. Is he prepared for the speech and why? Okay, according to Sam, no, because he is trying to hide his face with a towel or he's sweating because of his nervousness. Correct. From Vian Grace, not because he is sweating and look nervous or stressed. From Ira Jane, no, because of his gesture, okay, because of his action. So definitely all your answers are correct. If I were to ask you, if you are going to predict what will happen next, what will be your prediction about this guy? Okay, according to Danilin, no, because according to his actions, he's not that ready to speak in public. So what will be your prediction? What will be the possible outcome of his speech delivery? Okay, he would stutter. According to Brazil, he would stutter. Ira Jane, he would not be able to deliver speech effectively. Sam said he might not speak confidently. Saibel said the speech will be unsuccessful. RM Claire, he will lose his confidence in front of the audience. And from Audrey, he will stutter. So all your answers are correct. Why? Because they are supported with evidence, as shown in his action here. If you were the guy's friend, what advice would you like to give him? What would be your advice? Okay, can you give me an advice, a good advice for him? If you were his friend, what would be your advice? Okay, any advice you would give to a friend? Okay, from Judy Marie, from Daneline, believe in yourself. Correct. From Kyla, to have a confidence. I like Ira's answer here, to be prepared. Okay, that's very practical. Audrey Marie or Mary, do your best. Correct. RM, he should practice before he performs. It's also a practical advice. From V and Grace, calm yourself. That's also a practical advice. Okay, what else? What other practical advice can you give this guy when he's public speaking, to improve his public speaking? What other practical advice would you like to give him? Okay, so you have plenty of responses here. Thank you so much. I think you have captured our simple activity today. So in connection to our lesson, for us to be able to improve our ability for like doing public speaking, or if we are talking in front of other people, it's very important that we should learn some principles in public speaking. Let's begin with the kinds of speech according to purpose. So there are three kinds of speech according to purpose. We have informative, persuasive, and argumentative. We will start our discussion with, as I mentioned, we have informative, persuasive, and argumentative. And we will begin our discussion with the informative speech. Okay, and I want a little help from you to help me read the contents of the slide here. May I request Ira Jane De Jesus to please help me with it?
Informative speech. Informative speech involves giving then asking. As an informative communicator, you want your receivers to pay attention and understand, but not to change their behavior.
Okay, so an informative speech just involves giving then asking. It's an informative, and as an informative communicator, you want your receivers to pay attention and understand, but not change their behavior. So your purpose is just to give them information. There's no question and answer involved there. Just you're giving, delivering information. Do you have any experience delivering an informative speech? Can you tell me a specific example of an informative speech? Perhaps when you're giving a lecture, that is an informative speech. Why? There is no Q&A. There's no question and answer. You are just giving information, right? Okay, so we have examples here. I think I have, okay. Announcements, correct, from Prezio, when you're giving announcement, okay? That's, you're giving, not asking. When you are presenting a report, that's from Audrey Marie, delivering a news report, for example, on TV, right? That is an informative speech. Presenting, that's an informative speech. So, which means that your purpose there is not to really change the behavior of the audience, but just simply give them the information that they need to know. Okay? So, and according to Osborne in 2009, informative communication arises out of three deep impulses. Why do you think we do informative speech? Okay, may I ask Alexandra to please read the contents of the slide?
We seek to expand our awareness of the world around us. We seek to become more competent, and we have an abiding curiosity about how things work and how they are made.
Okay, thank you so much. So our purpose here is to seek to expand our awareness of the world around us. When we are watching news, for example, we want to learn something. We want to know what's happening around us, right? We seek to become more competent. I want to be well informed with current events. So I'm watching CNN or BBC World. We have an abiding curiosity about how things work and how they are made. So you are watching something just for the purpose of information, getting knowledge. Okay? So in short, the purpose of informative is, of course, to give information, no asking involved, and on the part of the audience, just listen or watch or observe the presentation, get facts from there to learn more about a particular topic. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the preparation. When you are preparing an informative exchange, what are the questions that you will ask? Okay, may I ask the help of Angelica to please read the contents of the slide? Okay, what about Ariel Palomo?
Hello, sir. Good evening. Um,
Yeah, please
is my
read.
is my topic noteworthy to be considered informative? What do my recipients already know about the topic? What more do you have to know? I am acknowledgeable enough of my topic to help my receivers understand it.
Okay, thank you, Ariel. So we have here four possible questions that you will ask yourself before you organize or before you prepare your informative speech. First question is my topic noteworthy to be considered informative? Right now, there are still webinars that we conduct on, for example, on COVID-19 pandemic. We understand that COVID-19 is no longer a new topic for everyone, right? Many people knew already about the topic. But there is still something about COVID-19 pandemic that we do not know about yet. So we have to explore on that. And which topic, particular topic on COVID-19 still is noteworthy. So you have to consider that. Second, what do my recipients already know about the topic? Definitely, they know that coronavirus, this is the shape of the coronavirus, and this is how coronavirus transmits from one person to another. These are the available vaccines, so probably people know that already. But of course, you have to consider your audience because though we presume that people know about the available vaccines, but if you're talking to ordinary people, they might not know about these. So it's about time that you do research, you do survey, so that you will know what your recipients already heard about the topic and what they would want to learn more about the topic. Third, what more do they have to know? So that is why it's very important to conduct needs assessment before conducting a lecture. In that way, you would not be able to give less to the audience that you are speaking with. And then the last question is, am I knowledgeable enough of my topic to help my receivers understand it? So it's very important that as a reporter, as a presenter, as an informative speaker, that you know the topic that you are handling, you know the topic that you are delivering. And there are many ways on how to improve your knowledge on a particular topic. First, you have to do your own research. You can get a lot of information from the internet. Second, you can interview people who know about the topic. That would help you explain the topic even clearer with more or less empirical data, or should I say practical examples, if possible. So there are many ways on how you can do it. Or you can even interview someone to help you with the topic. So it's very important that these questions are in place before you organize or prepare for an informative speech. Okay? Now let's proceed to the next. We have here persuasive speech. And may I ask the help of Audrey to please read the contents of the slide?
Persuasive speech is an art of gaining fair and favorable considerations for our point of view. It provides a choice among options, advocates something through a speaker, uses supporting material to justify advice, turns the audience into agents of change, asks for strong audience commitment or gives importance to the speaker's credibility, appeals to the feelings, has higher ethical obligation.
Okay, so in contrast to informative speech, a persuasive speech is an art of gaining fair and favorable considerations for our point of view, which means here it's more of an art. Why? Because you are using here a specific art way of delivering your speech, making sure that what you are expecting from your audience would be achieved by the end of your lecture. And then it provides a choice among options. You're giving them options. But of course, you want to lead them towards the option that you want them to believe in. You're advocating something through a speaker. So for example, you're an environmentalist and you're talking about the environment. It's very powerful. Why? Because you are a practitioner yourself. If you're a pharmacist and you are talking about medicine, that would be very powerful speech. You can be a powerful speaker. Why? Because you are a credible speaker. You have the hand of the topic. Uses supporting material to justify advice. So you are not just giving opinions here, but you are justifying your options by giving them examples, showing them materials, researches. There are a lot of research results that you can probably get from the internet that would support your contention, that would support your premise, that would make your speech even stronger. Turns the audience into agents of change. At the end of the speech, you're expecting them to believe in you and that they would do what you told them to do, because your goal here is to persuade them. You ask your strong audience commitment. It gives importance to the speaker's credibility. That is why, as a persuasive speaker, it's very important that you are really well-versed or conversant with the topic. If you're a teacher, then talk about teaching strategies and people believe in you because you are a teacher. If you are talking about farming and you are a successful farmer, a graduate of Bachelor of Arts in agriculture, for example, then you can be a strong, persuasive speaker. Why? Because you have deep knowledge on the topic that you are delivering. So in short, one of the prerequisites of a persuasive speaker is, of course, to have deep knowledge on the topic. So you should be knowledgeable. That would establish your credibility. And it appeals to feelings. You're trying to make them relate to you. So for example, if you talk about mothers, all people know about mothers. No one in this world does not have a mother, right? That is why when you talk about mothers, people can easily relate to you. So you are appealing to their feelings, right? If you talk about shopping, for example, online shopping, everyone can relate to you because in the 21st century, especially during this time of pandemic, many people, if not all, rely on online shopping to buy something they want, right? And even, order from like Food Panda, if you want to buy some food, or if you want to make appointments with some government agencies, you do it online. So if you talk about that, it would appeal to their feelings. Why? Because they can relate to it. So your daily activities may be relatable, and that's one way to persuade others to believe you. And then has higher ethical obligation. Why? Because for you to be able to inspire or to persuade others to believe in you, you have to be a believer yourself, you have to be a practitioner yourself, and you have to have experienced it firsthand. How can you advocate for vaccination if you are not vaccinated yourself? It's so ironic, right? You would say, oh, please go to the vaccination center and get yourself a shot. How can you tell that with all honesty if you don't even get vaccinated yourself? So it's very important that for you to be able to persuade others to be vaccinated, you have to be vaccinated yourself. You have to have been vaccinated yourself. That's very important. Okay. Now let's proceed to argumentative speech. And may I ask Abigail, the assist, to please read it? Okay, what about Bernadette Senizal? Can you please read? Okay, Clarice, the assist, can you read the contents of the slide?
Good evening, sir. Argumentative speech relies heavily on sound, proof, and meaning. According to Aristotle, logos, ethos, and pathos are the three primary forms of proof. Logos appeals to logic, means to convince the audience by use of logic and reason. Ethos, ethical appeal, means to convince an audience of the authority, credibility, or character. Pathos, emotional appeal, means to persuade an audience by appealing to their emotions.
Okay, thank you so much, Abigail, for that. Okay, so when you talk about argumentative speech, it relies heavily on sound, proof, and meaning. So there must be evidence, proof that would support your claim. And according to Aristotle, there are three primary forms of proof. One is logos, another is ethos, and third is pathos. When you talk about logos, it appeals to logic, means to convince the audience by use of logic and reason. So for example, you'd say, mammals give birth to their young. Carabaos give birth to their young. Therefore, carabaos are mammals. So you see, there's logic in there. There's logic and reason. So first, you are giving reasonable and logical explanation. That's logos. When you say ethos, its ethical appeal means to convince an audience of the authority, credibility, or character, specifically of the reference, for example. According to Martin Luther King, so if you are citing credible people, that would make your speech even more credible. But of course, you have to be credible yourself. And the first thing or the first person who should be credible should be the speaker himself. If you talk about business, you should be a business person yourself. And when you cite people, these people should be credible. Have you noticed that when a speaker would cite authorities, for example, according to John Dewey, learning by doing is an effective way of teaching children. Have you noticed that if you say something like that, your speech becomes more credible? Why? Because you cite authorities. According to the President of the Republic of the Philippines, November 2 is a working day. So it makes your speech really credible. Why? Because you are using authorities. So ethos is very important. Last is pathos. Emotional appeal means to persuade an audience by appealing to their emotions. This talks about relatability. Okay? How can you impact emotions by giving situations or experiences that everyone can relate to? Just by saying buying food at the food chain, for example, would already give you the edge in making others, relate to your topic, because almost everyone has experienced that. When you say that I drink water every day, that can already gain empathy. Why? Because everyone drinks water, right? So for you to be able to appeal to their emotions, you need to provide examples, experiences that appeal to them. Even the mention of your mother, that would already appeal to them. If you say, my mom was like this and that, and I missed her, and that would already make others also miss their mothers. That way, you can really relate to them. So these are the primary forms of proof, according to Aristotle, that are used in argumentative speech. One is logos, another is ethos, and the third is pathos. Okay, now let's ask from Clea Paclibar to please read the different defective argumentation that we have to avoid. Okay, can you read it?
To avoid defective argumentation, Lucas 2007 claims that the following must be avoided: defective evidence, misuse of facts, statistical fallacies, defective testimony, inappropriate evidence or defective patterns of reasoning, evidential fallacies, slippery slope, confusing facts with opinion, load proof, de- de- defective argument.
Okay, so these are the defective argumentation that we have to avoid in argumentative speech. One is defective evidence. When the evidence you are showing is not truthful, that is already a defective evidence. Okay? It's already wrong. Misuse of facts. You're using facts that is not suited in this particular context. For example, there was once a report before of this person posting a picture of a victim of rape, and she wrote, a news report on that. But that rape victim was not actually a rape victim in the Philippines, but she made use of that, picture from a foreign country to support her report. That's the use of misuse facts. Why misuse facts? Because although it's correct, that picture was a picture of a rape victim, but it's not in the context of the Philippines. It's a context in a different country. So that's definitely wrong. Statistical fallacies. You are making use of wrong statistics. You would say, according to blah, 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 there are already 40% of Filipinos being vaccinated. You don't even have idea how many people are vaccinated. You're just making false claims. So that's statistical fallacies. Defective testimony. Okay, almost the same with defective evidence, inappropriate evidence, or defective patterns of reasoning. How can you say that how can you make jokes with rape, right? So inappropriate, defective patterns of reasoning. Even if you say that, oh, it's just a joke, but that's already defective, right? Evidential fallacies, still wrong evidences or pieces of evidence. Slippery slope, kind of a course of action that would lead towards something wrong, something that is not good, something that is not even acceptable. So it can be an action that will lead to something unacceptable. Okay, so When you talk about confusing facts with opinion, like opinion, but you're using it as if it's a fact. And I think I've told you this before, that an opinion or a lie that is told 1,000 times becomes a fact. That is why I don't want you to share something from Facebook that is not valid, that is not confirmed. If you see something there that is not from a legit source, do not share it right away, because you are confusing something into facts, or here confusing facts with opinion. A truth becomes an opinion, so which is wrong, because fact is a fact. It should not be confused with opinions. Flawed proofs, wrong, of course, erroneous, defective proofs, and then defective arguments, definitely. So these are the things that we need to avoid when we are making argumentative speech. Okay. Now, let's proceed now to public speaking. So when you are doing public speaking, you are talking in front of a large audience, right? There's a microphone there and you're speaking on a particular topic that you are given to talk about. What is public speaking? So a public speaking is a process of speaking in a structured, deliberate manner to inform, influence, or entertain an audience. A speech is the term used to refer to the body's spoken expression of information and ideas. As you can see here, it's structured, it's deliberate, and the manner is to inform, to influence, or to entertain an audience. And we all know that election is fast approaching, and our politicians, a lot of politicians would go to public and do their own campaign. And that is an example of a public speaking, because you are already trying to inform them or to influence them to vote you, right? That's very important. So here we have here body spoken expression or information and ideas. So you can see people gesturing or using their hands in making a point or emphasizing a point. So these are all the elements of public speaking. Now, there are different kinds of speech according to delivery, and there are four. One is the read speech, another is memorized speech, third is impromptu speech, and the last is extemporaneous speech. In this, in the pre-final, I want you to choose from the four available kinds of speeches here according to delivery, and then make your own speech and deliver it, okay, by taking a video of yourself and then post it on the classwork on Google Classroom. So that will be your pre-final performance task. But before that, let's discuss first the different kinds of speech according to delivery and their descriptions. Let's start with the read speech. And to help me with this, may I ask Jenny Rose Balayo to please read it.
Read speech. Reading from a manuscript is a manner of speaking where a written speech is read and delivered word for word. This is appropriate when one is asked to deliver a prepared speech on behalf of another speaker. Also, when the speech is long and when details are complicated and essential such that they need to be given completely.
Okay, thank you so much, Jenny Rose. So we have here the read speech. Reading from a manuscript is a manner of speaking where a written speech is read and delivered word for word. This is appropriate when one is asked to deliver a prepared speech on behalf of another speaker. And also when the speech is long and when details are complicated and essential such that they need to be given completely. I could always relate this when you are introducing a speaker, for example. You have this read speech, right? Because you will be reading his accomplishments, his educational attainment, his hobbies, his achievements, and so on and so forth. So read speech is very important. Can you give a specific example where read speech is used? Can you type it in the chat box? Actually, almost every time when I'm asked to deliver a speech, online, and if I've been asked to deliver a speech long before the actual event, I usually make a read speech. Why? Because when you do read speech, you will be able to include in your message all the things that you would say, and at the same time, you would not waste time in delivering your speech. Why? Because you can actually budget your time. You would say, okay, I'll deliver only the speech in minutes. So within 2 minutes, you would be able to deliver that. I remember when I was attending a UNESCO event in Sendai, Japan. When I was still there, my professor brought me to that engagement, and I was observing um, representatives from other countries delivering their speeches. And their speeches were written on a piece of paper, and they would just read them. So, informal speech or informal gathering, delivering a read speech is usually practiced. Why? Because there is time limit. And, in a very formal gathering, there's no time for wasting. I mean, for wastage. You have to speak according to the time allotment that you are given to. So read speech is very important. Okay? So we have here a weakness on read speech or for read speech. May I ask RM Claire to please read the weakness for read speech? Okay, what about Cybele?
Yes, sir. The weakness. The force, naturalness, and eye contact may be diminished because the eyes have to travel from page to the audience and vice versa.
Okay, thank you so much, Cybele. So one of the weaknesses of a read speech is that the force, naturalness, and eye contact may be diminished because the eyes have to travel from page to the audience and vice versa. If you are not so prepared to deliver a read speech, it would be hard for you, especially if you're not so good at reading, because chances are you would look at the paper the whole time, not looking at the audience anymore. That is why for a read speech to be effective, you need to practice it so that the movement of eyes from page to audience would become seamless and it would be natural. So you would say the force, naturalness, and eye contact may be diminished. So in that way, you know where to look at the page and where to look at the audience. So that's the way on how to make it more natural. Although it's very hard to make it natural, especially if you are not prepared to deliver the speech. When you are asked to read someone's speech at the last moment, when you're going upstage now, and then you're asked to read it. So sometimes you would have difficulty. And if you're not familiar with some words, you would stutter and not even pronounce the words correctly. Okay? Now let's proceed to memorize speech. And may I ask V and Grace to please read it?
Memorized speech. This is a written speech which is mastered and delivered entirely from memory. This is the kind of speech requires the speaker a considerable memory skill in order not to forget his or her presentation. This method is excellent for short messages, although it is also used for long pieces in oratorical, declamation, and other literary contests.
Okay, thank you. So memorized speech is a written speech which is mastered and delivered entirely from memory. This is the kind of speech that requires the speaker a considerable memory skill in order not to forget his or her presentation. This method is excellent for short messages, although it is also used for long pieces in oratorical, declamation, and other literary contests. Have you ever experienced delivering a memorized speech? Which particular or what particular engagement or occasion have you delivered or will you be delivering this kind of speech? Can you type it in the chat box? Memorized speech. Of course, we have here oratorical, declamation, and other literary contests. Maybe monologue, impersonation, right? So you would experience that. But other than those, okay, spoken poetry, okay, memorized spoken poetry. That's so true. Okay, but sometimes spoken poetry is spontaneous, right? Okay, but it could be true. Yeah, language festival from Audrey. Okay, from Beyond Grace, it's spoken poetry. Correct. I don't know if you have done this, but during graduation, for example, when you're delivering a welcome address or speech of gratitude, valedictory address from Kyla, that's so true. Sometimes memorized speech works. Why? Because it's better than read speech, right? Although I don't frown on someone who's reading their speeches during graduation, but memorized speech becomes more natural when you are delivering it in public, right? And that would make you even look more prepared than a read speech. So that's why it's better. But we still have a weakness here. Okay, we have a weakness for memorized speech. And may I ask Sam to please read it?
Weakness: naturalness and to forget the lines and fail to shift smoothly to another mode of delivery.
Okay, that's as easy as that. One is naturalness. Maybe if you haven't practiced a lot, your ability to deliver it with authenticity and naturalness would be affected. And sometimes when you forget some lines, it will hinder you from shifting smoothly to another mode of delivery. That's quite embarrassing, right? Especially if you are. I've noticed that I've been a judge to various literary pieces or literary contests, and when a contestant would forget certain lines on a declamation piece, sometimes they would just stop and they don't know already what to do, right? Because your mind is already sort of conditioned to follow the sequence of the sentences, the sequence of the words, and that if you forget something, that would stop you, that would already hinder you from proceeding to the next line, right? So that's the danger of a memorized speech, unless you are smart enough and you understood your speech. It would be easy for you to do ad libs, but ad libs happen only when you are well versed and conversant with the topic at hand. That is why, though it is a memorized speech, it is very important to understand the speech itself so that when you forget a line or two, it would be easy for you to transition or to shift from memorized line to invented line. So today, actually, I prepared a read speech because we had a send-off party for our superintendent who would be moving to Victoria City, and starting next week we would have a new superintendent. And because I was busy, I was not able to finish my read speech. So while I was reading my speech during the time that I was called to deliver my speech, I just realized that I didn't finish it. So I had to do impromptu speech towards the end of my read speech. And you know, if you're not familiar with your speech, that would be a big issue. You would not be able to continue your speech. But because I understood my speech, the content of it, it was easy for me to transition from the read speech to impromptu speech. So that's why it's very important that you know your speech. Otherwise, if you are in that particular situation, you would really mess up the entire delivery, right? No matter how good you are at the start, if you messed up in the middle or towards the end of your speech, everything would just go upside down. Okay, may I ask Cyrene to please read impromptu speech?
Impromptu speech. This is the speech where the speaker develop his or her ideas, thoughts language at the moment of delivery. Speaking to spur of the moment, it may not deliver the best thought in the best way, but it brings out the most natural thing to say at the moment.
Okay, that's right. Thank you so much, Irene. And this is the speech where the speaker develops his or her ideas, thoughts, and language at the moment of the delivery. So, which means you don't have any background of what you will talk about. You are just given the impromptu assignment that you will be delivering a speech. Can you give a welcome address? So, right at that moment, you will deliver a welcome address. So, it's more of speaking to spur of the moment because you don't have much time to think of what to say, and what you will say becomes spontaneous. Whatever you have in your mind, you speak it. So it's just the spur of the moment. It may not be delivered the best thought in the best way possible, but it brings out the most natural thing to say at the moment. Have you experienced this when you are asked to deliver something about, for instance, okay, there's a birthday party, and then you're asked to talk about the birthday celebrator. Can you say something about the birthday celebrator? Or during a wedding, for example, reception, when someone is called upon to talk about the bride or the groom without being told beforehand, and you would just stand there and then talk about the groom or the bride, anything that you know about, either of them. So that could be an impromptu speech. But an impromptu speech can also be done during competitions, right? You are given a question about, for instance, what is your take about the death penalty? So you don't have any, you don't have enough time to prepare for it. So you just deliver your speech according to how you know about the topic and what you believe in. So this is something that will generate that spur of the moment thing. Okay? So what is the weakness of an impromptu speech? May I ask Brazil May to please read it.
Since there is very minimal or no time for preparation given, the content and organization may suffer.
Okay, so I think it's just normal that the organization may suffer. As you may have noticed in different beauty pageants, Miss Universe, Miss Philippines Universe, Miss World, and all these pageants, when a contestant or a beauty queen will be asked on a particular topic to talk about, most of the time, especially if they are not that prepared, they sometimes stutter and the ideas are already disorganized. And I think that's just normal. Why? Because in an impromptu speech, there's no preparation given. And besides, if there is time to prepare, there is so little. Okay? You ask them the question, and then while the question is being asked, you're processing it in your head already. And then when the question stops, when the MC stops reading the question, you deliver it right away because you only have very few seconds to deliver your speech. So you see in TOEFL, in IELTS, when you take, for example, these types of tests, your ability to speak is tested because in a given period of time, you will be asked to deliver a speech. And the way you organize your thoughts, the way you deliver them, and the way you pronounce everything would affect entirely the result of the test. Now let's move on to the last, which is the extemporaneous speech. And may I ask Myra to please read it? Go ahead.
Extemporaneous speech. This is a speech where the topics or ideas are prepared beforehand. However, the speaker will compose his her views and language only at the moment of the delivery. The speaker may use an outline to guide him through his speech to achieve better organization and to avoid leaving out details. It is the method that the most lecturer and teachers use.
Okay, that's correct. Extemporaneous speech. Thank you so much, Myra. So this is the speech where the topics or ideas are prepared beforehand. However, the speaker will compose his or her views and language only at the moment of the delivery. The speaker may use an outline to guide him through his speech to achieve better organization and to avoid leaving out details. It is the method that most lecturers and teachers use, especially when we're giving lectures. When we're giving lectures or seminars, so we have an outline of what we will say. And we have a note what specific example we would give so that we would be able to capture the entirety of the session. So in the context of a competition, for example, in contrast to in impromptu speech, where there is no preparation given to a contestant, in an extemporaneous speech, contestants are already given general topics. I can relate this to Miss Earth, for example. They have topic about climate change, about deforestation, about flood, about garbage. So these are general topics, right? But they do not know specific questions yet. So during the competition, they are asked to answer specific question based on those general topics. So which means that still, if you are not prepared for the question, you would still stutter or you would fail to make coherent answer. And maybe the content and the organization of your speech may suffer. However, there are some people who are really gifted with, not only with words, but also with the ability to express their ideas and with oozing self-confidence. These are factors or elements that would affect your speech delivery or delivery of speech. That is why even if you're doing the read speech, the memorized speech, the impromptu speech, or the extemporaneous speech, whatever type of speech you are going to deliver, if you're prepared to deliver it and you're confident enough to deliver it, I think you could deliver a successful and really effective speech to the audience, right? Now, there is a weakness for extemporaneous speech, and may I ask Margaret to please read it?
Weakness. Weakness if the speaker is not spontaneous because he has to formulate his sentences while he is speaking.
Okay, thank you so much, Margaret. So it's similar to impromptu. If you're not spontaneous, then it would be difficult for you to formulate sentences while speaking, because while you are talking, your brain is already processing the next sentence. So you are doing multitasking here. It's so hard to speak and then process it and then speak. Otherwise you would speak, stop, something like that. But if you are good at multitasking, it's like you're processing it here while listening to the question, you deliver it while processing the next sentence, and so on and so forth. So which means that both impromptu and extemporaneous speeches require a lot of cognitive activities for you to be able to deliver it efficiently and successfully. Okay, so that's the end of our lecture for today. So let's do a little practice of the concepts that we have learned today. Let's try to